our lesson for January the 25th, we continue now our study of Nehemiah. And our text for this week's lesson is Nehemiah chapter 6. Alfred Lord Tennyson, I think is a name you've probably heard. He was one of the greatest of the British poets of the 19th century. And he came out with his first book of poetry in 1833. It was savaged so badly by the critics that it hurt his feelings so badly that Alfred Lord Tennyson did not come out with another book of poetry for 10 years. But finally he overcame his anguish and his hurt feelings and came out with another volume. And that volume became popular and enhanced his popularity. And ultimately he came to international fame and was the poet laureate of England for, I think, like 30 or 40 years, all because he was able to overcome that opposition and he had the courage to continue doing what he knew he could do. There's an old saying I ran across that says, "A great deal of talent is lost to the world for want of a little courage." That was true of Tennyson. Think of what we would have missed had he not had the courage to overcome that criticism. This also applies to our lesson in the day of Nehemiah. If he had not had the courage to overcome that opposition, then the walls of the city would not have been rebuilt, and the story of Jerusalem and its history would completely be changed. But he did, and that's what this lesson is about. The courage of Nehemiah to face that opposition and to get the job done. So where did this opposition come from? We hinted at this in a previous lesson. Let's look at it a little bit more closely now. In verse 1 of chapter 6, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. So who are these three people? Well, Sanballat was identified as the governor of Samaria. Now, Samaria was the capital city of the northern kingdom before the exile. So it's an important city in the north, and it is, you might say, a city in competition with Jerusalem. And right now, Samaria is doing well, and all of a sudden, here comes Nehemiah back to rebuild the walls of the city of Jerusalem, and Sanballat is upset for a couple of reasons. For one reason, he's upset politically. He is the governor of Samaria, you might say, one of the more important governors in the land. But all of a sudden, Nehemiah's come back, and he's the governor now of Jerusalem, or the governor of Jerusalem. And so there is a political threat there to Sanballat. In addition to that, if Jerusalem rebuilds its walls, then they're going to be able to begin to build trade, and that's going to be an economic threat to Samaria. So for both political and economic reasons, Sanballat wants to oppose the building of these walls. And then there's Tobiah. Tobiah, and by the way, Sanballat also had a daughter who was married to the grandson of Jerusalem's high priest. So there's family connections there that Sanballat was concerned with as well. So that's Sanballat. And then Tobiah lived in Jerusalem, and he was one of the